Sunday morning, 10 a.m. The temperature has crept up to 85. Not really crept, soared. But it's just begun to soar. It'll get so hot here later on today that I saw a bird. Wanted to capture it, but this is a new chapter in building a better birdhouse. Yes, I've started that book. There's a cardinal right there. I can't get over there, just close enough to see it, but you saw it flutter out. Sitting down again, resting. Be still and know that I am God. There's my mockingbird right there. I want to tell you about something else about my mockingbird. This has just come to me. I've told you how my mockingbird was the first, really he was the only bird that would come out in the open when I first moved here. I actually thought, what is the deal? No birds in this letting out house? What's the history? Why aren't there any birds here? So but I just noticed him and didn't really do much about it until January, till an ice storm. And I've just realized something. My mockingbird is my mother. My mother had just died, and there had been an ice storm, and I couldn't get where I needed to be to I can't get where I need to be. Couldn't get where I needed to be for her funeral. Well, everybody in town got mad at me. You live in Mississippi. What's wrong with you? Why won't you come? You don't love your mother. You're not a good person. You're not a good Christian, for Pete's sakes. Well, I couldn't get out the door. It was so icy. But I looked out. I could barely open my screen door, and I saw my mockingbird. He had been there a couple times before, sitting right there on the arbor that I had put up. I've extended it now 8 feet. But because I'm creating another beauty spot here. In fact, I'm creating a heck of a beauty spot here. But I'm going to go on with my story. But anyway, he was the only bird in the icy storm who came out at all. But I didn't have any food for him because I didn't have any bird food. So I threw everything I knew outside. I threw bread. I gave him my bread. Made cornbread, gave him cornbread. Gave him everything I could give him just so he wouldn't starve. But again, my mother had just died. And I may have attached more significance to that tale than the fact that this was just a marvelous bird who decided to visit me in winter. Maybe in a way, that day, I needed my mother. I needed my mother to know that I was not being mean. I could not get out of my house, regardless of what all the people in my church back home thought. I couldn't get out of my house. It was so icy. The ice didn't let up for 10 days. There he is right there. Can you see him? I wish I could get closer. But anyway, as I've been doing this project, I already told you the hummingbird got right down in my face and hummed and threatened me. Don't you move, my bougainvillea, you mean lady. Don't you move it. Don't you change things. I like it the way it was. But the mockingbird was a little bit more gentle. I've already told you he's a gentle creature. He's patient. The great one named him or gave him a patient song, rewarded him for his patience with a special song. But the mockingbird hasn't gotten right down in my face and tried to peck my eyes out like Alfred Hitchcock movie. But he's come down a couple of times. I had moved the first bird feeder from there to over here, and I was considering moving another one right over there. But the mockingbird came down and sat on that bird feeder. I think he was saying, "Slow down, you're moving too fast. You gotta make the moment last now." In a gentle way, my mockingbird was trying to teach me what I needed to hear. And that's the kind of support my mother has given me. Don't get me wrong, there have been times when she's gotten in my face and screamed and yelled, and I thought, my cow, what a God rot. But basically, was just a gentle correction. Well, mostly. She was my biggest support from when my book, The Donkey Song, came out. She bought more books than any other person in the world, and I had several friends who bought lots of books just to support me, to support the book. I miss my mother. I went into a type of depression after she died. I started this looking at lit club, and my niece, that my mother dearly loved, I think my mother loved her much more than she loved me, quite honestly. But this niece that my mother dearly loved, and my mother lived with that niece for several months until she could no longer be substantial without some kind of 24-hour care. So she had to move into a little nursing home. But she and my niece were very close. And my niece, who doesn't even read now, she's a horse person. She's not a reader. She was an athlete in college. She's not a reader. But my niece started reading the book, and she sent me a message. "Aunt Jackie, I'm reading the book. I'm reading the book, The Secret Garden. That's the first book." I said, "Well, you may be the only person in my looking lit club. I don't know that anybody else is reading The Secret Garden. You may be the only club member." And my niece said, "Aunt Jackie, Grandma would have been in your club. It makes me cry. And she would have been in my club." Well, let me tell you about this spot right here. That whole area is going to be an iris garden, backed by a rose garden. I'm bringing my turquoise table over here to be a little sitting place, another morning coffee spot, a place where I can sit down at a table and chairs, and I can truly write, maybe not have enough room to spread out. So I'm creating another morning coffee spot, but I'm going to line this entire three-corner space with iris because my mother loved iris. My mother loved iris. My grandmother loved iris. In fact, I to this day, I think that iris may be related to orchids. They're probably my very first favorite flower. They have a fabulous fragrance. My grandmother was German. She had the tall ones that stood proud and wafted the air with a fragrance that is unforgettable. I don't buy roses that don't have good fragrance, and I don't buy iris that don't have good fragrance. I'm like, what's the use? I could buy a plastic flower. I want something that smells good. I want something that smells like home.